Is Kamari Lassiter, the second-round pick for the Houston Texans at cornerback, a steal? Well, I was talking to a buddy of mine who hadn't followed the Texans very closely, and I was like, dude, where you been? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll keep you up to date. But he was asking me about the draft picks and who the Texans added. And I was talking about Kamari Lassiter and the performances that he had in minicamp and OTAs and staying step for step with Dell and step for step with Stefon Diggs, and how there's a chance that he could start at cornerback opposite Derek Stingley. And my buddy simply said, wow, he kind of sounds like a steal. And it got me thinking, got me scratching the old chin, wondering how exactly do you determine who a steal is in a draft? How do you determine that that player ended up being a steal for your team? So I decided to put together the anatomy of a steal when it comes to a draft pick, and I felt like there were three qualifications that kind of laid things out. One is, well, the player has to play a lot, okay, and how likely it is Kamari Lassiter will play. The other is the players drafted before him and around him need to be playing at a certain level, and ultimately he needs to overachieve to an extent as well. So let's go through those and find out how likely it is that Kamari Lassiter can become a steal for the Houston Texans. One is playing time. You just got to play a lot to end up being a steal. And for Kamari Lassiter, the opportunity to play at cornerback 2 right away, it's certainly there. He can absolutely play and start day one for this Houston Texans team. Now, a couple of practices at OTAs and mini camps doesn't make you the cornerback 2. Nick Caserio just recently said on the radio in Houston that C.J. Henderson had a great spring for the Houston Texans. Jeff Okudah is still around. There's heavy competition for that starting spot opposite Derek Stingley, but Kamari Lassiter's got every opportunity in the extended training camp that the Texans are going to have to lock down that spot. He is the locksmith after all, and play quite a bit. That's the first element and the most necessary element of a steal of a draft pick, is they've just got to play a lot over the course of the season. Now, Lassiter could play at the nickel cornerback spot or that slot cornerback slot and play a lot and still end up as a steal, but it feels like the third part, that overachieving, would come in a little bit more if he was going day one. We'll talk about overachieving after we talk about all the guys drafted around Kamari Lassiter. He was the 6th cornerback off of the board, and most draft rankings had him about the 6th to 8th cornerback. Coming off the board ahead of him, Terrion Arnold, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and Nate Wiggins. And then coming off the board right around him was Max Melton from Rutgers and Mike Sandrostrill from Michigan, and some other defensive backs, including Enos Rakestraw Jr., who went to Detroit, and he came out of Missouri. So how many of those guys need to play at a certain level, and then Lassiter overachieves from those guys? Well, Lassiter's play's got to be better than some of those guys drafted ahead of him. To be a steal, okay, you have to play better than other guys that went at your position. C.J. Stroud's kind of a steal because he played way better than the guy that went ahead of him at the number 1 pick. You know, it's easier to kind of say you're a steal when there was a wait to get him. And the Texans certainly had to wait to get Kamari Lassiter compared to some of these other cornerbacks. And with a couple of cornerbacks coming off the board right in front of him, those are the targets that I would circle for Kamari Lassiter to play better than. He's got to play better than Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry for a good portion of the season. He doesn't have to be better every week, but being better than those two guys would be a big deal in towards the steal conversation for Lassiter. And then I would look at some of those first-round guys, Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Nate Wiggins, and I would say outplay one of those guys. Outplay one of the first-rounders, and then outplay the guys right around you, certainly the ones in front of you in DeJean and McKinstry, the ones behind you in Rakestraw and Max Melton. And if you outplay those guys, then you're well on your way to being a steal of a draft pick. And I think certainly outplaying Melton and Rakestraw, who went behind him, and even Sandrostrill, even though he primarily is going to play slot cornerback, outplaying those guys is more paramount to securing the basis of a steal. You got to outplay those guys, because if you could have just taken those guys instead of Kamari Lassiter, then he feels a little bit less of a steal. So you got to outplay those guys and then outplay the guys right around you. So you showcase a little bit that teams made the wrong decision and then outplay one of those first rounders. So it's not a super complicated formula, but beat out a first rounder, beat out the guys drafted around you, and you're on your way to being a steal. The final part of being a steal is I feel like you got to overachieve, okay? Overachieving is going to be difficult for Kamari Lassiter, but not impossible. Overachieving to me for a second-round pick at the cornerback spot feels like locking down the starting spot and playing well for a decent portion of the season. Now, he doesn't have to be locked down, the locksmith Kamari Lassiter for all 17 games. Start day one, finish week 18, and just be dominant. That's not overachieving. That's incredible, amazing. And then, yeah, absolutely, he's a steal. Just overachieving to the level to become a steal is just consistency. And you've got to be remarkable in a couple of moments. For instance, if, say, Derek Stingley missed 2 weeks and Lassiter had to play outside corner with somebody else opposite him that's not Derek Stingley, and he played really well in those couple of weeks, maybe had some nice moments against top wide receivers over those 2 weeks, that would go a long way into overachieving. Playing the majority of the games, the vast majority of the games, would go a long way towards overachieving, as well as you start to build out what a steal means for the Houston Texans and for Kamari Lassiter. So those are my 3 standards for how Kamari Lassiter ends up as a steal. Thank you to my friend who gave me this idea to create the anatomy of a steal. First, you got to play, okay? You just got to play a lot. Second, you got to play better than some of the guys that were drafted way ahead of you, and you got to play better than the guys that were drafted right around you. And third, while you're playing, you've got to overachieve a few different times in the course of the season to be considered a steal at your position. What say you about my standards for how you become a steal? Let me know in the comment section down below if you believe I've perfectly put together the anatomy of a draft pick steal. And if you disagree or are missing a portion, please let me know in the comments section. So Kamari Lassiter could be a steal. I don't know if he will be. I would think that way I've laid it out, the players that he has to play better than, it's unlikely that he's a steal, but you don't have to be a steal to still be a good player for the Houston Texans. And he certainly is trending towards being a fun player to watch this season. Cornerback is one of the toughest positions to transition to in the NFL. That and tight end, 2 of the spots that will be difficult for rookies to play right away. But Kamari Lassiter, in a few practices that the media have been able to see, certainly looks like he's got a little bit of juice to his game. Speaking of juice, well, folks have been asking for a little bit of extra juice here on the channel. And I've been talking about it for a while, and I finally got off my big lazy butt, and I did it. If you don't want to talk about food, then this video is over for you. Appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Can't wait till we talk Texans again soon. But if you're still here, well, how about this? I got the first food review that I'm tacking on to the back of this video for the channel. We'll talk about it in the comment section. We'll talk about it the next time we're on live as well. But the first food review with the 1 through 11 scale, because it's football, obviously, and the yet-to-be-named food review series. Still need your help on that. Hope you enjoy this portion of the video that is not much football, but a whole lot of food. And we'll talk to you again soon. Appreciate you watching. Maple Pepper Bacon Chicken Sandwich at Chick-Fil-A. Okay? It's a new limited time only item. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to get it as Chick-fil-A recommends it, even though I think the fried chicken cutlet would be better in there than the grill, but we're going to get it as Chick-fil-A recommends it. I'm going to taste it. We'll give it a score at the end. I did it in the app. We'll go over everything as we try it, but on my way to go get it and get this food review series underway. All right, I grabbed it. The Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich. I have to read it because I can't, for some reason, this is not clicking in my brain. Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich. I don't know what Chick-fil-A is thinking. Here's the website description. A lemon herb marinated boneless breast of chicken grilled for a tender and juicy backyard smoky taste, served on toasted maple flavored brioche with pepper jack cheese, green leaf lettuce, bacon tossed in brown sugar and black pepper blend. That sounds good. And sweet and spicy pickles. Okay. I don't even like pickles, but I left them on here. This is what it looks like in the little box. It comes in the box. Get you a better close up here. Okay, you got the layers. You got the bacon. The bacon looks very good. Get you an overshot there of the bacon. Bacon looks very good. There's the peppery brown sugar. All right, let's give it a taste test here. Again, I think this would be better. I really do. I think this would be better with the fried patty in there. But they have a special lemon herb marinated chicken breast, boneless chicken breast in there. Let's see. I hate hearing people chew, so I'm not going to try not to chew in the microphone. I'm also going to try to be polite and not talk while my mouth's full. The flavors are not as pronounced as you would expect. I mean, it's good. The bacon is not as flavorful as I thought it was going to be. When you get a bite of pickle, all you taste is bun and pickle. All you taste is bun and pickle. It's a great bun. I probably would put this bun on the regular Chick-fil-A sandwich or the spicy sandwich, and I'd feel pretty good about it. It's that brioche bun. They need to keep that. That's good. This is solid. It's a nice change up. It's very light, despite sounding like it's going to be very heavy. It's very light. Of course, your typical Chick-fil-A order is fried chicken. Okay. So I'm going to put this one, the scale's 1 to 11. 11's awesome. The best. No questions asked. Got to try it. Got to have it. Would eat it over and over and over again. 1 is, I don't even want to talk about it ever again. I think this one is probably a solid like 6.4. You know, it's very okay. I would try it once. Okay. I would try it once. And, you know, maybe if I wanted something just a little bit lighter, something different from a flavor profile, I would do that. It's not a bad sandwich, okay? You're not going to be disappointed with this sandwich. I just don't know if you're going to get your typical level of enjoyment that you get out of a Chick-fil-A sandwich. For what it costs, it's a couple bucks more than your typical Chick-fil-A sandwich. You actually lower the price if you put the regular chicken fillet in there. So I would think that it's a solid sandwich, okay? I probably will not get this again. It's a nice one-off. I would encourage you to try it, and that's probably about it. I maybe went a little high on the grade, but we're not changing grades. Whatever I spit out first, that's what we got. So there is the Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich review. And look, feedback on the reviews, welcome. These are the early stages of the reviews. We'll fine-tune them, make them better, get them better before things are all said and done. But that's it. That's where we are on the Maple Pepper Bacon Sandwich from Chick-fil-A.